Good morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Thanks so much for joining me every morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. We have so much to get to Monday through Friday. It's a daily show. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel or find me on Rumble. You can also find me on the Cities 92.9 Facebook page. We stream the show live, so that way you have all of the resources. I share the resources. I share the videos that I use. It's a great place to be. So go ahead and subscribe today. We've got so much to get to. Trump places the blame for the second assassination attempt on Kamala Harris and, of course, the mainstream media, the corporate media. We're going to get to that here. And also, Tim Walz, he tries to explain how he's going to lower gas prices and grocery prices. Psst. He's going to tax you more. That's how he's going to lower the grocery prices and the gas prices. He took a page out of Kamala's book. He caught Kamala syndrome and is sick with Kamala syndrome. So he tries to explain how he's going to lower these prices, and really, they're going to just wind up taxing you more. That's his plan. That's him and Kamala Harris's plan. Okay, I do want to talk about this politician in Switzerland. She used a painting of Mary and Jesus as target practice. No, really, this happened, and it would be global news if it wasn't an attack on Christianity. If it was any other religion, it would definitely be global news. This is a huge story. She says she's sorry about it, though, and that she didn't really know it was Mary and Jesus. What? You'd literally have to be mentally incapacitated to not know this was obviously a painting of Mary and Jesus. But we're going to get to all of it here on Conservative Cat. Let's dig into Donald Trump saying that this second assassination attempt is definitely Kamala Harris's fault. In less than 60 days, Trump has survived 2 assassination attempts. Okay, so at this point, Kamala Harris has done 2 interviews. So they're tied right now, if you're looking at Kamala Harris's interviews that she's actually done, being that the first interview was scripted, recorded, and she had to interview as a team with Tim Walz because she didn't have the cojones to interview by herself with friendly fire Dana Bash, whose husband, by the way, was on the list of people who denied the Hunter Biden laptop and dismissed the Hunter Biden laptop as Russian disinformation. Dana Bash's husband, that is. But anyway, so Trump, 2 assassination attempts under his belt, and Kamala Harris has talked with the friendly media twice. So they're tied in a sense, but not really. None of that would have happened, the assassinations, had it not been for the constant lies that come from the left and how they have convinced mentally unstable people. They've created mentally unstable people with their hormones, their cross-sex therapies, their antidepressants. They've created nut jobs in this country. And now they've convinced people, these nut jobs, that Donald Trump is Hitler with their rhetoric. You see, it's twofold. They've created the nut jobs with the over-saturated pharmaceuticals and drugs and all of these hormones that they're on. And then they get them to believe that Donald Trump is Hitler. So none of these assassination attempts would have happened had it not been for the rhetoric of the left. We still don't know if this second would-be assassin is connected to a much larger plan to assassinate the former president. We don't know that. I think it was the Florida sheriff. I'll have to pull up the clip. He comes out and he says, I don't know. He was asked, hey, how did this guy know that Donald Trump would be on the golf course? I mean, this schedule is pretty airtight. And how did this guy who lives in Hawaii, who's been to Ukraine, who isn't even really from Florida, how would he know that Donald Trump was going to be golfing and knew exactly what hole he was on? Obviously, he had to have some sort of insider information. And that's what the Florida sheriff suggested. He goes, well, we're looking into whether he had inside information if somebody gave this would-be assassin Trump's schedule. And we're all asking the question, who was in on it? We still have yet to figure that out. If he had help figuring out where Trump would be and exactly when. Okay, because golf, if you play golf, it's a game of it ebbs and flows. You never know what hole you're going to really, how long a hole takes. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to set up, to hit the ball. This guy had to know that he was going to be at this hole, the fifth hole. I think Donald Trump was on at that time. Donald Trump, I bet. I'm willing to bet this guy was like, oh, no, I'm fine. Let's continue the match. Let's continue the golf. Is it a match or is it a game? Text me. Let me know. 309-451-9299. I'm not much of a golfer. I'm a caddy. Okay. I'm a caddy. I'm the caddy when we go, and I don't play. But is it a game or is it a match? I bet Donald Trump was wanting to finish the match. I think it's a match. And he was like, no, don't drag me off. No, don't do it. Don't do it. I need to finish this. I need to finish it. I don't care if they were shooting at me. I'm going to do it anyway. I bet he said that. But he survived 2 assassination attempts. Trump said, because of this communist leftist rhetoric, the bullets are flying and it's only going to get worse. That's what he said on Truth Social. So when you constantly defame a man and claim that he's going to end democracy all over the world, that's not just our mainstream media. It's not just our media. It's media's media all over the world. And it's officials all over the world, government officials, saying that this guy is going to end democracy and that he's the next Hitler, which is so shocking that people actually buy this. Donald Trump was in office for 4 years, and I'm sorry, folks, but I hate to burst your bubble. He wasn't Hitler. He didn't do anything that was even semi-dictatorish or gave you the dictator vibe or tyrant vibe. He didn't do anything to make you believe that he'd be some sort of dictator. So we have a track record. We know that Donald Trump won't be dictator day one, like Kamala Harris constantly spews and constantly lies about. This is infuriating. It's not surprising that you get assassination attempt after assassination attempt when you constantly have people defaming this man and calling him the next Hitler. It's very infuriating. So here's what Donald Trump said on Truth Social. The rhetoric, lies, has been exemplified by false statements made by Comrade Kamala Harris during the rigged and highly partisan ABC debate. It was rigged, by the way. Quite literally an ABC producer on a sworn affidavit punishable by perjury. If he swore via an affidavit that Kamala got the questions ahead of time. She was also told that she would not be fact-checked. Okay, so that is factual. It was a rigged debate, the ABC debate. There is an affidavit out there, and this ABC producer swore by this and is punishable if he lies. If we find out later that he was lying about this, he's going to spend time in prison for perjury, right? So I don't know, folks. A sworn affidavit is pretty solid evidence that this was a rigged debate and that she received the questions ahead of time and she was told that she was not going to be fact-checked. But he goes on in the Truth Social post, Trump does, and he says, all of the ridiculous lawsuits specifically designed to inflict damage on Joe's, then Kamala's political opponent, me, has taken politics out of our country to a whole new level of hatred, abuse, and distrust. He goes on and he says, because of this communist left rhetoric, the bullets are flying and it's only going to get worse. Okay, while the left points fingers at Trump and blames him for hateful rhetoric, they're the worst offenders of this. How do I know that they're worse offenders of hateful rhetoric? Because Donald Trump is the only one getting shot at. Okay, they're also victim blaming him as if it's his fault he got shot, which makes no sense. You would think if, they say, oh, he has such hateful rhetoric, Donald Trump has such terrible rhetoric, he needs to tone down the rhetoric. You would think that his rhetoric would lead to, and God forbid, I am not saying I want this to happen. No, do not misconstrue my words. You would think that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden would be getting shot at on a daily basis at this point. Donald Trump is getting shot at, and this is the second attempt on his life. But you would think that they'd be getting shot at if his rhetoric was the problem. No, their rhetoric is the problem. That's why Donald Trump is the one almost being assassinated. So the media is trying to downplay, of course, the second attempt on Trump's life, and they're even blaming the assassination attempt on him. So there were 5 absurd headlines within the past 24 hours that I've seen. So number one, Politico, quote, here's the headline: Republicans outraged over possible assassination attempt. They're going to keep trying to kill Trump. And then this other headline from Time, they said the suspect arrested in relation to the shooting at Trump's golf course in Florida on Sunday has been identified as Ryan Routh, a 58-year-old with unclear political ideology. We know exactly where this guy stands. It's not unclear his political ideology. He's a white dude for Harris. He had a Biden-Harris bumper sticker on his truck. He was a LARP. He was LARPing as a Ukrainian soldier, had expressed extreme support for the Ukraine war. He was a mercenary, a Ukrainian mercenary. So Republicans outraged. I love Politico. Republicans outraged over possible assassination attempt. Possible assassination attempt? What do you mean? The FBI deemed it an assassination attempt. I don't know what you're talking about, Politico. You can't call it a possible assassination attempt. Another one from USA Today. They said Trump's safe after shots fired in his vicinity in Florida. You see how misleading that is? That's so misleading. Trump's safe after shots fired in his vicinity in Florida. Okay, that doesn't tell me that this was a targeted attack, and it's very misleading, USA Today. Washington Post, another chance for Trump to frame Democrats as dangerous has emerged. I'm weak. This is hilarious. These are hilarious. Cincinnati Enquirer says Trump brings these assassination attempts on himself. Okay, they just outright blamed him in this headline. MSNBC went as far to blame him live on air for his own assassination attempt. Don't believe me, I've got the evidence.
There to be calls from within the Trump campaign to do that. Because he's going to reach out to his supporters and say, let's take this down. We do not know, again, the source of any gunshot or gunshots. We don't know who's responsible for this. The whole thing has yet to be 100% confirmed from start to finish how this all played out. But do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence, or would that be atypical of the former president?
Well, Alex, remember back to the assassination attempt on President Trump's life and how, there was talk of a new tone, and then the Republican convention was, by Trumpian standards, muted. And it did seem like he was, just trying to take it down a few notches. But then by the end of his convention speech, we were kind of back to where we started. So I don't know how long this could, this moment of unity for the country where we come together and we say, I don't want any political opposition to be under threat of violence. It's not okay, any threat of violence, we don't want. I would love for us to have a unity type moment, but I think it's probably going to be pretty fleeting, as we've seen in the past.
Oh, boy. All right. So there you have it, folks. That's MSNBC quite literally blaming Trump live on air for his own assassination attempt, which makes no sense. These people don't even care that someone tried to take his life. They would much rather use it as an excuse to project their insecurities and blame him for what they're actually guilty of. You see, it's all projection. Trump said in a statement, in this statement, of course, a Trump Truth Social post would not be complete without discussing the border. So here we go. Here's what Trump said. Allowing millions of people from all places unknown to invade and take over the country is an unpardonable sin. Our borders must be closed and the terrorist criminals and mentally insane immediately removed from American cities and towns, deported back to the countries of origin. We want people to come into the country, but we must love our nation and come in legally and through a system of merit. He goes on and he says, the world is laughing at us as fools. They're stealing our jobs and our wealth. We cannot let them laugh any longer. Make America great again. The media victim blames Donald Trump for almost getting shot, and they're refusing to report on the invasion at the border as if nothing's going on. Americans are suffering, and the left couldn't be bothered to pretend to care. I told you about Jerry Nadler yesterday, quite literally falling asleep as he was listening to testimony of victims who shared their terror, their grief with legislators, with lawmakers, Congress, about how their family members died at the hands of illegal aliens. And he couldn't be bothered. He quite literally fell asleep. He's not even losing any sleep over Americans losing their family members at the hands of illegal aliens. The real threat to democracy, I'll tell you who it is. It's the media. It's the media. All right, I'll be back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Woohoo! Good morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. You can always find me on YouTube, Rumble, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really helps us out, folks. And find us on social media, Facebook, we're there. And you can always text me, 309-451-9299. I was reading through this. This is quite a statement. Now, he was on with Sean Hannity. That's a New York real estate investor, Steve Witkoff. And he was speaking on social media, then on Fox News with Sean Hannity about his reaction to the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. And he said he's blessed to have been there. Now, this was his golfing partner, Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's golf partner. And he says he got to witness what a real leader looks like while appearing on the Sean Hannity show. He said, even a figure as high profile as Donald Trump, it should have at least some moments of leading a normal life. But yesterday was quite a day. And this was, on Monday, after the assassination attempt. Here's Steve Witkoff. Here's what he says. I actually feel blessed that I was there. And the reason I feel blessed is that I got to see what it's like for my dear friend to live his normal life, which has been punctuated by 2 attempts to assassinate him in the last 60 days, being vilified since he left the presidency and falsely accused and harassed. Then he goes on, he says, here he was yesterday on a beautiful day, just trying to get some rest and relaxation on the golf course like the rest of us. And here's a man with an assault rifle attempting to kill him. It was terrible, but I got to see a man who was stoic, courageous, and cared for his friend's safety over his own life. He cared for his friend's safety first over his own life. And that just tells you that I'm going to vote for the guy who they keep trying to kill. I mean, who was it? Ronald Reagan, after his assassination attempt, won nearly every state. I think there was one state he didn't win. He was an inspiration to everybody. Steve Witkoff goes on to say, I wish the whole country could have witnessed what happened yesterday because they would have seen a real leader. Wow. Incredible stuff from his golf partner. And I was saying, I'd imagine Donald Trump, but clearly it was different. He was probably, trying to push his friend's family out of the way and, very, very American, courageous, stoic, a true leader. I was thinking it would play out a little differently. Trump, Secret Service is dragging him off the golf course and he's like, no, let me finish the hole. Apparently he's a really great golfer. He's actually gotten a few hole-in-ones, which is really tough to do. Vote for the guy who gets up the next morning after an assassination attempt and is out on the golf course, which happened in July, just like a day or so after the assassination attempt where he got shot in the air, which I wish we knew more about the Butler, Pennsylvania shooter. We know a lot about this guy. I mean, quite literally, and they're not going to get deep into this, the mainstream media. He's a Ukrainian mercenary. He probably bought into the lies that Adam Kinzinger spouted off saying, oh, he's a Putin puppet and blah, blah, blah. Trump is a Putin puppet and he's, not right in the head. And he believed that he was doing something patriotic when taking shots at the former president because he's a Ukrainian or a LARPing. He's live action role playing a Ukrainian soldier. So, yeah, we know that he's a Ukrainian mercenary, probably listened to Adam Kinzinger way too much. And then wound up taking shots. And apparently the Florida sheriff there is saying, and I hope Ron DeSantis really takes advantage of this and conducts his own investigation. And, yesterday he was talking about how we understand that the FBI is conducting an investigation, but there's a lot of things, a lot of laws that were broken. And we believe a local investigation paired with the federal investigation will be beneficial. And I hope he takes advantage of this being in his state and he gets to the bottom of this, because the question everybody's asking is, how did this guy know, this nut job, No. I mean, he lives in Hawaii, or at least lived in Hawaii at one point. How did he know where Trump would be that exact moment on the fifth hole on that day on a Sunday? I mean, he had to have access to Trump's schedule, obviously, and somebody had to tell him, okay, he's on the fifth hole right now. I mean, there had to be some sort of insider, right? So time will tell. Time will tell. Eventually, we'll probably get JFK documents, much like Donald Trump documents, 50 years from now, which exposes that the CIA was behind it or the deep state was behind it. Who knows? But let me get to this story. I really want to get to this story. This is a Switzerland politician. And now this would be global news if it were not a Christian, if it were any other religion. So this Swiss counselor, she's apologizing for shooting a poster of Jesus and Mary and posting the aftermath of the poster. It looks like a painting. It's very well done painting. Unfortunately, it had multiple bullet holes in it because she was using it as target practice. Why is the left? They always get a pass when it comes to Christian hate. And then they demand that the masses affirm their ideology, no matter how deranged, how evil it is. They say, oh, you have to affirm my ideology that says chopping kids' genitals off is a good thing. Okay, you have to affirm my ideology. I'm sorry, but that's deranged and evil, and I don't know if I can really affirm that or say that's a good thing. But the left, they're not obligated to affirm or to at least even respect the Christian religion. I'm sorry, but this is true. This is not global news because it's Christian hate. So like I said, this Swiss politician, she said, oh, I had no clue it was religious material. Come on. This is one of the most iconic looking photos of Jesus and Mary. It clearly looks like Jesus and Mary. And she goes, I just thought it was big enough to use as a target. So she posted this, I think it was on Instagram, this painting or poster. It was huge, of Jesus and Mary with a bunch of bullet holes in it. So the city councilor of Switzerland has apologized and reportedly sought police protection after threats. See, I love how AP News reports this. They're talking about how the threat, they think that the threats against her are is the newsworthy element here. No, the newsworthy element here is that she posted a photo clearly depicting Christian hate, and if anything is hate speech, this would be hate speech, right? But this is like a 14th century looking painting, and it had the images of Mary and Jesus there, and she fired a sport pistol at the auction poster, and they had bullet-ridden faces, and she plastered the bullet-ridden faces of Mary and Jesus all over social media. So the Green Liberal Party official, Sengia Ahmedi, she's 32. She put the images all over Instagram over the weekend, and then she quickly pulled it down after backlash, obviously, and she later said she was practicing shots from about 33 feet and found that the poster was big enough for a suitable target. Okay, so she's saying, oh, I just thought it was a big enough target. And she goes, I apologize to people who were hurt by the post. I deleted it immediately when I realized it was religious content. I didn't think about it. I'm incredibly sorry. Okay, I appreciate the apology, but there's no way you're straight up lying right now. This is an iconic photo. It's very clearly Mary and Jesus. The left, they don't have a word for being anti-Christian because they hate Christians because it uproots their ideology. Christianity, quite literally, is the antithesis of their ideology. That's why they hate it so much. So they claim Christians are the most hateful people in society, but they're the biggest offenders because I'm sorry, but I don't know about you. I haven't seen, who was it? Catherine, or I forget the actress's name where she holds up a bloody head of Donald Trump. I don't know about you, but not many Christians act in that way. I'm going to be honest with you. I have not seen that. Most Christians are very loving people. Now they might disagree with your ideology because it's the antithesis of their religion. But the left, they're the biggest offenders when it comes to hate speech. You had Kathy Griffin, I think is her name. I'll look up her name, but she holds up the bloody head of Donald Trump. We have this Switzerland official who quite literally shot at Mary and Jesus in this poster. So had this poster, like I said, been of any other religion, Hinduism, Islam, anything else, this would be global news. But since it's Christianity, nobody cares, and this is maybe like page 8 of AP News, and nobody's going to be talking about it. She pled ignorance. She goes, "I didn't know. I had no idea what I was doing." Okay, there's not a person in the world who would look at this photo and say, "Oh, I didn't know that was Mary and Jesus." You have got to be mentally incompetent, so mentally incompetent that you don't even know your own name at that point. You must be living under a rock if you didn't know that this was Mary and Jesus. And like, why would you shoot at? I don't even know, but people. Like you're shooting at a target that looks like person and then posting it, very actual life person. There's a reason why targets are very, silhouette of a person, and I'm all for, real life targets or whatever, or realistic targets. But there's a reason why most targets sold are silhouettes of people and not actual faces of people. Because it could be considered hate speech if you're shooting at Mary and Jesus or at a person that is depicted, right? There's a reason why they don't put faces or features on targets when you go to the range. Okay. Like I said, it's not so much that she's getting away with this. I don't want, right, free speech. I'm a free speech absolutist. If you want to say that you absolutely hate Mary and Jesus, I'm going to vehemently disagree and have disdain for you over this because you are offending me and my religion. But we live in a culture that emboldens this type of behavior while at the same time policing thoughts on hate speech. Okay, thoughts for hate speech are against these arbitrary standards, and there's no true standards to policing hate speech. Okay, so I'll be taken down from Facebook or from YouTube for saying Fauci sucks, right? Or for calling out Tony Fauci for getting 6 boosters and still contracting COVID-19. I'll get taken down off of YouTube for that sort of thing. But this woman gets to do this and she gets away with it. So there's a double standard here. I got to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I'll be right back. Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat. Find me on YouTube, find me on Rumble, find me on Facebook, and text me at 309-451-9299. Like I said before we took the break, I was, going on about hate speech and, these arbitrary standards. I'll be taken off because I say Fauci sucks, but this woman gets to put a bunch of bullet holes in this poster of Mary and Jesus and gets away with it. I'm just sick of living in a country here in Western culture, where, when it comes to, there's a double standard when it comes to what's permissible to hate, to not hate, and there is no, they're all arbitrary standards. So it's unclear what laws against hate speech are in her country, what kind of laws there are in Switzerland. But I bet there's a double standard there, as there is here in America, because I'll be taken off, removed, censored for saying, oh, I can't stand the vaccine, or, oh, I can't stand Fauci getting his 6th booster and still contracting COVID-19. I'll be taken off for that kind of thing and censored. However, Kathy Griffin, the actress, she can hold up Donald Trump's bloody head and get away with that. So I do want to get to this. Tim Walz, he says the quiet part kind of out loud. He's going to tax you into oblivion because he thinks in his deranged head that's going to bring down grocery prices and gas prices. According to the left, Democrats have power to change the direction of the wind if Americans are taxed into oblivion. So they think they can tackle the climate crisis or the climate change or global warming, whatever they're calling it these days. I don't know. They think that they can make a difference and change the direction of the wind or stop the sea level from rising just by taxing Americans into oblivion. They think if they've got enough taxpayer money, they'll be able to change climate change or shift. The earth changes. I mean, I've said this from the beginning, is that the earth is going to pass away. It's prophecy in the Bible, that the earth will be made new and that the earth will not be here. And I take great comfort in that. These people, they lose their minds over the earth changing, over the earth and the planet changing. So I want to play this clip. Love this. This is Tim Hawkins. Before I get to Tim Walz talking about taxing you into oblivion to try to bring down grocery prices and gas prices, which makes no sense. I love this clip. I was thinking about this when I was listening to Tim Walz. We'll get to Tim Walz in the next segment, but take a listen to this.
Hey everybody, gather round. I'm here to give you anything you like. You want free college, energy, mortgages, whatever you like. You have come to the right place. Why? I'll tell you why. Who can take your money?
Who can take your money?
With a twinkle in their eye.
A twinkle in their eye.
Take it all away and give it to some other guy. The government.
The government.
The government can.
The government can.
And who can tax the sunrise?
Who can tax the sunrise?
Who can tax the trees?
Who can tax the trees?
Let you run a business and collect up all the fees. The government.
The government.
Oh, the government can.
The government can.
All right, I had to play that for you. I had to play it for you. I'm going to be back on the other side. Tim Walz saying that the only way we bring down the grocery prices, down the gas prices, is by taxing Americans. No, really, that's what he wants to do. He wants to get rid of gas. He wants to produce less gas, and then he wants to fight an invisible enemy, which is climate change. And he wants to use your taxpayer dollars to do it. So that's next here on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. I so do appreciate it. We are going to get to Tim Walz. Tim Walz. He wants to tax you into oblivion. Really, that's what he wants to do. He wants to get rid of gas completely. And this is, of course, the Inflation Reduction Act. It was a front for climate weenie, green weenie crap. And just like Kamala Harris, she was the tie-breaking vote in that Inflation Reduction Act. Tim Walz also wants to combat climate change using your taxpayer dollars, and he thinks that that's going to bring down the grocery prices, the gas prices. The average person in Middle America is not asking for much. They just want to make ends meet. Really, that's what they want to do. They want to make ends meet. And the cost of living has skyrocketed and salaries haven't increased. So while the media spent, the last several years acting like inflation is a myth, they are now acknowledging what your empty wallet. But now they want to say, oh, if we get rid of gas, if we produce less gas, then that's going to combat the grocery prices and the gas prices being so high. And, this is the same as Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote that passed the Inflation Reduction Act. It accelerated the cost of everything because it was too reliant on energy deficient. I don't like to call them energy efficient alternatives like wind. I'll be back with this story next at the top of the hour. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Text me 309-451-9299. Good morning, friends. I'm actually in a Facebook fight right now, and I've got to fight this guy. So Kamala Harris, like I said, she's not middle class. So I put this up on my Facebook page. You guys can join the conversation if you'd like. I put it up on my Facebook page. Hey, Kamala is not middle class. And I go in and I say, her mother transferred $20,000 to a Canadian bank when the Harris family moved from Berkeley, California to one of the most affluent suburbs in Montreal back in 1976. Okay, so I'm gonna discuss this person's comment here. Dan, he gets on and he says, "Oh yeah, 20,000 sounds like a good divorce settlement." He was saying, I'm betting mom worked her way up to middle class and never left. It seems your definition of the middle class is too low. Which I'm sorry, folks. The middle class, 20,000 in 1976, as I put in my in my post here, is like $100,000 today. Okay, so I'm thinking this is divorce settlement money from the professor, right? So her mother is a cancer researcher. Kamala Harris's mother is a esteemed cancer researcher, cancer biologist. Now I looked up, on the low end, she probably makes about $70,000. She's been at this a long time. The high end, you make about $100,000. Her father, Kamala Harris's father, is an esteemed professor at Stanford University, and the starting salary there is like $200,000. So I'm sorry, but that's not middle class. The average savings for somebody in the middle class is $13,000 today. Today, 2024, the average savings for a middle class person, somebody who has savings, their savings is $13,000. Now that's not including, your checking where you have money for your bills, and then your savings is that. So she had $20,000 back in 1976. So it's more than the median average or the average savings for an American now. So she is definitely not middle class by American standards at all. I don't know what the average, I could look it up really quick, savings for a middle class person in Canada. But point is, she's not middle class. I mean, she started out with $20,000, which is equivalent. This is $20,000 back in 1976, which is very important because this is equivalent to $100,000 today. Okay, $20,000 back in 1976, that's quite a bit of money. Okay, that's not middle class by any means. And then there's more. Okay, so she is the daughter of two immigrant parents. They had their PhDs. I don't know how many middle class people have PhDs. I'm going to be honest. Most middle class people, they work teacher jobs, nursing jobs, the blue collar jobs, right? These are your middle class. Okay, they're not PhD professors. That's upper middle class. Okay, traditionally, if you have a PhD, you're going to make $200,000 at Stanford University. Okay, and I understand maybe her dad left the picture and didn't contribute financially, which is not what he claims. Okay, in an essay, he described how he, never abandoned his responsibility to take care of the children. He did admit that he lost touch with his two daughters after a nasty divorce. Clearly, he gave her a $20,000, probably a divorce settlement. This woman, the mother, but the mother is not, poor either, because if you look at her receipts, her tuition receipts, she paid all of it. I don't think she went into any debt for her schooling. $6,000. She had plenty of receipts that showed that she was paying her tuition. This is Kamala Harris's mother. They both have PhDs from UC Berkeley. So she's not poor either. She's not, and I'm not saying that the middle class is poor, and my definition of the middle class is not too low, but I mean, when you look at the numbers here, $13,000 is the average savings for a middle class person. Yeah, $20,000 back in 1976, that exceeds middle class tenfold. Okay, so her mother flew Kamala Harris out to visit her grandparents in Zambia and in India almost every summer. Nothing about Kamala Harris's upbringing is middle class. I promise you. Her father owns a plantation in Jamaica. Her mother's family, they're Brahmin Indians. So the Brahmin Indian population, they're known to be of the top class. That type of Indian, the Brahmin Indian, they are known to be the top class Indian, where they go off into the United States, get their PhDs and things like that. So, yeah. So I mean, she has really no roots here in America either, which is not that big of a deal. But Kamala Harris, I mean, they were in California for a period of time. She obviously went back to California, was a prosecutor. But she has no real roots or parents or grandparents. She does have a familial tie to a slave owner who, whipped black people and enslaved black people. He was black himself. Hamilton Brown is his name. It's like her great grandfather was a plantation owner and a slave driver. So there you go. I mean, middle class? No. Her grandfather was a government official stationed in Zambia. So Kamala's maternal grandfather, that is. So he was a high-ranking government official in Zambia. So again, not middle class. How many middle class people can say, "Oh, my grandfather is a government official over in this country and a high-ranking government official"? Not many people in the middle class say that. I'm sorry, but I think that this person that commented, and he's like, "Oh, your definition of the middle class is too low." I don't think so. And I don't know if you're going to refute Google when you could Google the average salary of a middle class person, and you could Google the average savings of a middle class person, and all of that is much lower than that of the Harris family. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that she's not a middle class person, unless you want to refute Google. You can refute me all you want, but if you want to refute Google and Google, I mean, this is, they've calculated this averages based on study after study after study. Researchers in economics or economists have figured out what the average middle class salary is and what the average middle class savings account looks like. So, Dan, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. All right, so I'm going to get to Tim Walz here next. Woo! morning. Hey, it's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. The news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Kamala Harris not being middle class. Okay, I can't stand that lie and that, people aren't fact checking her on this. I've looked it up several times. It's an easy Google search. She has immigration papers. Kamala Harris's mother. She transferred back in 1976, she transferred to her Canadian bank account $20,000. Now, that's probably a divorce settlement from her ex-husband. It was a messy divorce. I don't know how much the father was involved in Kamala's life. He claims that he remained responsible for the children, which indicates that he continued to pay for the children, and he never abandoned his responsibilities as a father. This is what he said in an essay once. Now, we know that the father is very, very wealthy. He is an esteemed professor, or retired now, but was at Stanford University making, I'm sure I've looked it up, $200,000 plus. He probably made way more than that. That's her father, okay? Now, people will say, oh, well, her father was out of the picture. Okay, then let's just look at her mother, okay? Her mother, she moved from Berkeley, California to one of the most affluent suburbs, and I've talked about this to a great extent in Montreal, back in 1976. And in 1976, she took money from the U.S., and this is all immigration papers, okay? She had to, lay this out, how much money she had to transfer to this Canadian bank account. And back then, in 1976, it was $20,000. I don't know about you, but a lot of middle-class people nowadays in 2024 don't have $20,000. In fact, the average savings account balance for the middle-class American is $13,000. So that's in 2024. Now, go back to 1976, $20,000 back then, probably equivalent to today's money, adjusted, for inflation and things like that, $100,000 US dollars today. Okay, so she had $100,000 in her bank account in 1976 in savings alone. Okay, so I don't know what her checking and obviously her life looked like, but she moved there, the mother did, and she was a cancer researcher. Okay, so she made pretty good money. If you look it up in Canada, they make substantially less than those in America do. In Canada, starting $70,000 a year now today. I'm not saying they make a ton of money. That's probably middle-class salary. However, she's been at this a long time. She's a cancer researcher. She has a doctorate, a PhD from UC Berkeley. I don't know how many middle-class people have PhDs. You're looking at, nurses, cops, blue-collar workers, construction workers, people who might not even have a college degree, okay? And this isn't my definition of the middle class. This is a definition that's been verified by economists, okay? Economists know the average salary of a middle-class family. They know the average salary. So, like I said, her mother, she was Brahmin Indian, which is a top class of Indian in that country. She was one of the top, types of Indians, I guess. So Kamala's mother, she would send her kids to the grandparents. Her maternal grandfather was a government official. Kamala's maternal grandfather was a government official. She'd fly the kids, the two daughters, to go see every summer their grandparents in India. And I mean, nothing about her upbringing screams middle class. I'm sorry. And not to mention Kamala Harris has ties. Well, her great grandfather, Hamilton Brown, was a slave driver, owned a plantation. Now her father owns a farm in Jamaica as well. Her father's family owns a farm in Jamaica as well. I think it's like, I don't know what they grow there. I've got to look that up. But point is, nothing about her upbringing, nothing about her family screams middle class. Okay, nothing about it. And I'm sorry, but $100,000 savings, divorce settlement You're not middle class. I'm sorry. All right. I do want to get to this story. It's Tim Walz. He says that he's going to bring down gas prices. And the way he's going to do that is by taxing Americans, because that's what they do. Walz was asked how the Kamala Walz regime would lower the cost of living, especially for groceries and gas. His response was to produce less gas, because that makes sense. And he wants to fight an invisible enemy, which is climate change. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
I hear from a lot of people, I just want my gas and my groceries to be cheaper. What is your administration's plan to be more specific a little bit on lowering the cost of living and lowering prices?
Producing more oil than we ever have in this country. We are producing more than any other country. We're expanding those options for it, whether it's wind, it's solar and things, getting at this heart of climate change, but at the same time, creating jobs for Americans, and gas prices will continue to come down. And I think what I keep saying about this on food prices that we've seen, look, I know this from farm country. Farmers are only getting about $3.90 bushel for corn, $10 for soybeans. Somebody in the middle's taken more than they should on this. 37 states have laws against that. She's talking about making that the case, expanding it. The one thing, though, that she's talking about, and we're seeing happen, and the numbers came out this week, is real wages are finally rising. And one of the reasons is she's making it easier to form a union.
I hear from a lot of people, I just want my gas.
No. All right, so let's break that down. The average person in middle America is not asking for a whole lot. You're middle America, you're in Illinois and Midwest. You understand this. They care about making ends meet. You want to make ends meet, and you can't do that because the cost of living has skyrocketed and your salary hasn't. Okay, so while the media has spent the last several years acting like inflation is myth. What did they say? Inflation is transitory. Inflation's a myth. Inflation's a myth. They're only now acknowledging that your empty wallet that we always knew. We always knew inflation was the thing because our wallets were empty. They tried to tell you your wallet wasn't empty. We now know that the reason why your wallet was emptied at an accelerated rate is because of Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and that accelerated the cost of everything. So his response to decreasing the cost of gas and groceries was to produce less gas and be more reliant on energy. I call them deficient alternatives like wind. Okay. What's ironic about that is that Sleepy Joe recently admitted, recent admission sums all of this up. Joe sums all of this up perfectly, which is that the Inflation Reduction Act was a cover to promote radical climate legislation, which to no surprise exasperated the inflation more than any other president in modern history. That is what caused the gas prices to go up so high. It's because it was radical climate legislation that pushed for less production of gas and pushed or created a lot of tax credits for people to buy things like electric vehicles, which there's no demand for. Right. So they gave you, what was it, like a $7,500 tax credit to go buy an electric vehicle. Not but a month later, you see Ford increase the price of their EVs to like by $8,000. So that's why everything raised or increased all the cost. So more climate change efforts will undoubtedly make everything worse. Okay, because we've already seen this. There's an example of this. It sums this up perfectly. Okay, we've already seen what the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz campaign or administration would do, because we've already seen it with Sleepy Joe's administration. Since when will less gas decrease the price of gas? Every economic class I've ever taken, and I'm not an economist by any means, and in my gut, that just doesn't sound right? Additionally, the farming industry, they're dependent on the gas and on this industry on gas. Subsequently, when the price of oil goes up, so does food and everything else. So the more gas you have, the less the price is. The more supply, the less demand. I mean, this is basic economics 101. So when the powers that be say this and say that, oh, if we produce less gas, things will be less expensive, they're lying. It's not rocket science. Okay, the left pretends that this is going to create jobs this will do nothing but increase bureaucracy. These jobs, these green jobs, Governor J.B. Pritzker did this in the state of Illinois. And there are Black Americans who were promised these green jobs, these climate jobs, and they're speaking out and they're saying, hey, we haven't gotten our job yet. You want to know why? It's all for bureaucracy. It's all government jobs. It's some pencil pusher somewhere, some sustainability researcher who, scrolls on social media for 5 minutes or types a couple of emails and then goes home and collects $100,000 salary on your dime. Okay, that's what this is all about. The Office of Sustainability or the Sustainability Director, or it's all bureaucracy. It increases bureaucracy. There is no real jobs in climate jobs because there is no real product that people want. Okay, this is why Rivian lays off all of their people. Okay, there is no demand for that product. And when there is no demand for that product, there is no demand for workers to create that product. I mean, this is just basic. This isn't rocket science. I mean, if I can figure it out, these people ought to figure it out. The thing is, they know this and they just want to destroy and dismantle America. So we also claim that real wages are climbing. False, ding, 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 that's fake. Unclear what a fake wage is. He says real wages are finally climbing, which I don't know what he's saying there. But it's a lie. Wages aren't increasing. Okay, I got this from The Hill. The average American employee hasn't received a raise in 3 years. According to a survey, real wages for American workers adjusted for inflation are lower now than they were at the start of 2020, according to Federal Reserve data. Okay, now we do know this number. You need a 20% increase in your salary just to make ends meet because of the cost of living. Okay, majority of people have not seen a salary increase of 20%. Okay, even if you have received a salary increase, you're not getting that 20% to make ends meet. So, and then he throws in this union garbage at the end there. Here, let me play it real quick. I want to play this end part. Here we go.
And more than they should on this. 37 states have laws against that. She's talking about making that the case, expanding it. The one thing, though, that she's talking about, and we're seeing happen, and the numbers came out this week, is real wages are finally rising. And one of the reasons is she's making it easier to form a union.
I hear from a lot.
Making it easier to form a union. Okay, so he brings up the union gobbledygook, as they always do, and there has never been a time where labor cartels made the cost of living cheaper. In fact, I would probably argue that's not how the economy works. I'd argue that labor unions, especially government unions, are making life more expensive for Illinoisans. I've given you this analogy several times. What they do, they award, say, X construction company a government contract to go work on the road somewhere, right? And they make it less efficient. They give the guys a bunch of spoons, okay, to go out there and, dig holes with spoons rather than shovels. So you need 40 guys to go out there and construct the road or fix the road. And you're paying these people all with government dollars. It's a government contract. So it's the taxpayer who has to bite the cost of that. So by labor unions, labor cartels, as I like to call them, they do not make the cost of living cheaper. In fact, I could make an argument that they make it more expensive for the average American, the taxpayer, in that we have to pay for their contracts that the government gives them, especially government unions, right? So, if you want wages to continue to decline and the cost of living to continue to increase, vote this guy in. Vote blue no matter who it is. Otherwise, you know what to do. If you want your wages to increase, if you want the cost of living to decline, you know who to vote for. I don't think I have to tell you. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every morning. You know, speaking of unions, I was talking about unions on the other side of this segment. And, you know, Tim Walz, he gets out there and he says, oh, she's making it easier for unions to exist. So therefore, they're negotiating their wages and they're increasing their wages, which is not true. There was a survey that was done. Average American employee has not received a wage or a raise in 3 years. Okay. And they're definitely not receiving a raise that uh, is equivalent to 20%, which is the number that has been calculated. The 20% number, you need 20% more of your salary in order to make ends meet. So you need a 20% boost in order to make ends meet living in 2024. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but I know plenty of American workers who have not received that salary increase. Okay. There's no way American workers are receiving that. So, real wages for American workers adjusted for inflation are lower now than they were at the start of 2020. Their wages are lower. Okay, so he's saying, oh, the unions, they're negotiating their real wages and they're raising their wages because Kamala has made it easier for unions. Unions make everything more expensive. And I told you that for the taxpayer, because you have to pay for 25 guys to do a job, whereas it should take them 5 guys to do a job, a government contract. So I'm talking especially about government unions. They tend to make life more expensive for Illinoisans. Speaking of unions, according to the Center Square, I want to bring this story up. An Illinois state legislator, Dan Calkins, loved this story, and I will not let this story go. President Don Harmon have talked about this at the Democrat National Convention. His comments about unions, and you should always point to this if you're an Illinoisan. If somebody says, oh, unions, yeah, they're great. Point to Don Harmon's remarks at the DNC in Chicago this year at this delegation breakfast. He says, quote, Democrats don't win without organized labor, and organized labor puts everything at risks when Democrats don't win. We got to stick together. This is what he said. Dan Calkins, the state legislator, explained how top Democrats like Harmon don't allow things like the Invest in Kid Act. This is a bill, or this is a law. It was an act that was, you know, kind of a tax credit donation. So when you made donations to the Invest in Kids Act, you received a tax credit. Okay, so there were like 9,000 kids who were part of this program. And really what it is, you received like stipends or you received funds to go to a private school of your choice. It was a school choice act that we had here in Illinois. Now, this legislation was not favorable to public school teachers, obviously, and public school teacher unions, who are large contributors, largely of Democrat campaigns. Okay, the teachers unions, they donate to Democrat campaigns 9 times out of 10. Okay, a lot of the money from teacher unions is going to Democrat candidates and Democrat causes. So teachers unions, this is what Calkins said. He said they were afraid that the teachers unions would withhold their funding, okay, the funding of the candidates, if they were to renew the Invest in Kids tax credit. Okay, so this was like you might get a stipend to go to a private school of your choice if you were a kid in this program. It was a great program. You had to donate to it, and then if you donate to it, you get a tax credit. You know, Calkins, he goes on, he says, Local 150 is a heavy funder of Democrats, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. Those unions, they are funneling money into Democrat coffers, into Don Harmon's coffers. And they were worried that money was going to dry up if they passed or renewed the Invest in Kids Act. And the Invest in Kids Act objectively was a great thing for 9,000 plus students who wanted a choice to go to a private school that better suited their needs, okay, their educational needs. We know that the public school system is crap. We know that like maybe 6 out of 10 kids can read at grade, not even, I won't even give them that. I think it's like 3 out of 10. I don't know what the numbers are, but most of the kids can't read in public school. The Invest in Kids Act, it was a program that encouraged private donors with a 75% Illinois income tax credit to fund scholarships for low-income students to attend private school of their choice. In the 2022-2023 school year, 9,656 students received the Invest in Kids scholarships to attend schools that best fit their needs. See, this was objectively a great thing. And Don Harmon and Democrats, they shut it down. Why? Because they were freaked out that the teachers unions weren't going to give them their money. So the Illinois Federation of Teachers Committee on Political Education, this is a PAC, they contributed $1 million to Harmon's campaign. So as a legislator, you think that he has something to gain by shutting this Invest in Kids Act down? Yeah, I think so. So yes, at the convention, Don Harmon, pretty much admitted to a quid pro quo, and that's what Dan Calkins, he says. He says he's admitting to a quid pro quo. You give us money, and we'll help you with favorable legislation. This ComEd Ed Burke, this is ComEd Ed Burke and Mike Madigan all over again. He's just admitting how the General Assembly runs. Every legislative member knows that this goes on in Illinois politics and in the General Assembly. Harmon's campaign did respond and provided comment to the Center Square saying, Republicans do not support working people, therefore working people support Democrats. This was all they provided in comment. And I think that pretty much sums it up. Okay, so Republicans, it's not that they don't fight for working people. They're fighting for working people. They're fighting for low-income kids through the Invest in Kids Act. This was largely Republicans wanted this thing to continue. The Invest in Kids Act, largely Republicans did. And this is fighting for low-income students. What do you mean Republicans aren't for working class people? They were fighting for low-income students to go to a school of their choice through this program. And it wasn't even like that much. I mean, it was a $75 or 75% income tax credit if you donated to the so yes, it was taxpayer money. You get an incentive for donating, but it was a great program, and they got rid of it because they were worried that the teachers unions would stop funding them. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but we're going to do a fun story next segment. A 38-pound cat gets sent to fat camp and then tries to run away from the fat camp. He tries to escape the fat camp, and he gets stuck in a shoe rack. Thankfully, this cat is not in Springfield, Ohio. Otherwise, this cat would probably be a nice, tasty meal for about 6 to 7 Haitians, Haitian immigrants, illegal aliens, that is. So we're going to get to this story. I think it's pretty funny. The average cat should weigh about 8 to 12 pounds, by the way. This is a 38-pound cat. We're going to get to that story. I think you guys will get a kick out of it. That's next on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a daily show. Find me on YouTube, find me on Facebook, and also on Rumble. So I wanted to chat about this 38-pound cat. Okay, I feel like we got to get away from the crazy news and just focus on what really matters, the 38-pound cat at Fat Camp. Yes, so this cat escaped Fat Camp, but was not successful because this cat got stuck in a shoe rack and his face wound up in a blue croc sandal. So the average cat, like I said, should weigh about 8 to 12 pounds. I have a 20-pound cat. Yes, so I know all too well about fat cats. But this cat has my cat beat by about 38 or 18 pounds. He's 38-pound cat. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, but logically, it's logically equivalent to your average female weighing about 600 to 850 pounds. So that's a lot. It's a fat cat. So he was a rescue cat found in the basement of a Russian hospital after mentally incompetent staff fed him a diet of canned soup and cookies. Okay, so there was a staff there at the hospital. They were feeding this poor kitty cookies and soup, which sounds like a dream, and it sounds like he was living the dream, but according to the cat size-o-meter, he was very unhealthy. Okay, so yes, you feed a cat cookies and soup, yeah, he's gonna get fat. So subsequently, he had to go to feline fat camp. His name is Crumbs. Okay, so he had to do. He was more. He was a ruckus type cat. He would cause a ruckus, as the fat camp officials said. So according to the New York Post, the feline named Krushik, which is Russian for crumbs, was discovered by staff attempting to break out of the center of Perm, Russia. So there was a fat camp center. This is a rehabilitation. It was a feline fat camp, essentially, and he was trying to break out. And where he was, sentenced to a strict workout regimen, and food rationing. So he was sentenced there from the Russian hospital where he was found, and the staff there, they fed him the cookies and soup and caused him to weigh 38 pounds. So then he was sent to this feline rescue where they put him on a strict workout and food plan. So the photos of the cat show he weighs 38 pounds. He was wedged when he tried to escape the fat camp. He wedged himself between the bars of a shoe shelf, and he had his face stuck in a blue croc. Really hilarious photos. So Crumbs, he had caused a ruckus when he escaped today, said the rehabilitation expert. He was extremely displeased when he found himself disguised as a pair of slippers. But after a portion of food, he mellowed out. So he was very displeased when, the staff figured out he was escaping from the fat camp, and he was trying to disguise himself and hide in this croc, this blue croc, and disguise himself as a pair of slippers. So the staff, they gave him a little bit of food, and then he mellowed out. So he was causing a ruckus. He did not want to continue his workout regimen and did not want to continue food rationing. Now, you may be worried about Crumbs. You may think that he's miserable, and that's why he escaped the fat camp. But the kitty can now walk, because before he got there, he had this diet of cookies and soup, and he ballooned up to the 38 pounds. So he was so heavy to a point where he couldn't even walk. He's lost a little bit of weight now to where he can walk, and he actually plotted his escape and attempted to escape. Crumb's story is extremely rare case when someone loved the cat so much that they fed him to such a state, said a spokesperson at the fat camp, at the feline fat camp. Look, folks, I get cat lovers. I get you want to give them all the treats that they desire. However, that's in fact animal abuse. You should not feed a cat cookies and soup. I don't care how much you love the cat. That's actually animal abuse. It's not love. There's something called tough love. I, have my cat and I put him at the top of the stairs, and then I run down the stairs and they run up and down the stairs with me. He's a very handsome cat. But that's a miserable state to be in, 38 pounds. So what they do, they get him down to his normal weight at the shelter. The employees put this mammoth-sized feline up on this treadmill, but the treadmill is submerged underwater. It's a submerged contraption, so it lessens the strain on his joints. So this poor kitty, he must be so stressed. But fortunately, the pain is temporary. He is expected to lose some pounds of 50 or 70 to 50 grams per week. So his trainers are actually positive he will live a healthy life. Wanted to tell you that story this morning. I thought it was crucial that you found out that this 38-pound cat escaped a feline fat camp. So didn't know there were feline cat fat camps around. Good to know that there is a place I can send my kitty if he gains like 18 pounds. But he probably won't gain 18 pounds because I'm not going to feed him cans of soup and cookies. All right. I do want to get to this. Creed. Yeah, let's get to this one. Yeah, Creed. Like I said, it's a rough week. We woke up on Monday to the news of a second attempt on Donald Trump's life. And the media is being the media about it, of course. So I thought, this would be a great video to share with you. I'm going to play it on the other side, but Creed is for we the people. With arms wide open, Creed the band, that is. So leave it to the lead singer, Scott Stapp, to remind us all what it's all about. I'm not sure when this performance was. I tried to figure that out. I don't know. It could have been after the second assassination attempt. It could have been after the debate where we watched Kamala toss word salad. But either way, I think the lead singer of Creed, he knew that the people needed to hear this speech that he gave. So this is really patriotic. I'm going to play this video on the other side, but I got to take a quick break, come back, listen to Creed, the lead singer, talk about how we are a constitutional republic built upon the Bible and the Word of God and not a democracy. I thought it was truly a hands down patriotic performance. I'll be back next with that. with arms wide open. Okay, so Creed, they got out there. Well, the lead singer anyway, Scott Stapp. He reminded us what America is all about. And I'm not sure where this performance is from, if they had done this shortly after the second assassination attempt or if they did this after the debate. But either way, I think the lead singer of Creed he wanted us to hear this. So let's take a listen here.
And it's my opinion that that's exactly what the powers that be, that's what they want. They want us divided. They want us separate. They want us compartmentalized in our own little niches, in our own little groups, thinking we're right, they're wrong, and bickering. You know why? To keep us distracted from holding them accountable. They start dividing us and programming us in kindergarten, my friends. They teach us about how to be good slaves to authority, about how to do this and do that and think this way and think that way, all conforming us into this divided group of assets.
So I wanted to play this. You can listen to it in entirety. I'll try to tweet it. I'll retweet it on my social media account. It's a little bit long, but I wanted to quote him. Here he says in this, speech during his performance, he says, "We start reminding them of what our Constitution says," them being the deep state government. "We start reminding them what our Bill of Rights says. We remind them that we are a constitutional republic. We remind them that we're a constitutional republic built on the Bible and the Word of God, and we are not a democracy." Hands down, one of the most patriotic performances, I think, in the band's career. Second most patriotic performance. I do want to play this. We know what Creed's most patriotic performance is, of course, which would be the national anthem. I forget what year this was, but man, I really like this national anthem, this version of it. Let's take a listen to this one. If it loads, let's see. I don't know if it is going to pop up. Here we go. This was during a halftime show in Dallas. I can't play it. It's not going to play. Frustrating. But Creed, of course, I would say that their most patriotic performance was when they performed the halftime show in Dallas. This was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. So that was Creed. I figured you guys would want to know that, hey, the world might be crazy, but there's someone always out there uplifting your spirits. And in this case, Creed is there for we the people. And he just wanted to remind us that, hey, they're going to divide you out into these little groups, and they're going to try to make you an asset for them to be rich and gain all kinds of gain all kinds of affluence. And we have to remind them. We have to come together. We can't be divided, and we have to remind them what our Constitution says is that, hey, we're a constitutional republic, and we are built upon the Bible and the Word of God. So we're not a democracy. I loved that story. All right, I do want to tell you, I want to wrap up the show with this bit of news coming out, where we have the debate moderator saying out loud that they ganged up on Trump. Yes. So you guys remember watching the debate. I watched the debate in the Bahamas. I was in the Bahamas in the hotel, and we were watching the debate. And I was drinking a little bit. I was drinking some mojitos and watching the debate. And it was more palatable that way. But the debate moderator actually, I'm not going to have a whole lot of time to do this story, but we'll do it maybe tomorrow if I've got some time. This debate moderator practically said out loud that Donald Trump, that they were going to not fact check Kamala Harris because, the last debate with Joe Biden was so bad that they didn't want that for Kamala Harris this go around. All right, that's going to be the end of the show. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a daily show. You have a blessed day. We'll do it all over again tomorrow. Find me on YouTube and on Facebook and on Rumble. And I'll probably do this story. I'm going to do this story for the YouTube folks about the debate moderator. So why don't you go there and we'll wrap up this story on YouTube if you want to head over there about the debate moderator admitting that they weren't going to be fair to Donald Trump. Out loud with her mouth, she said this. So we'll be there on YouTube. I'll catch you tomorrow for the radio show. Bye-bye. Love you. Okay, folks. All right. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. I do want to do this story really quick about the debate moderator with her mouth actually admitting that they weren't going to be fair to Donald Trump. Okay, so I had every intention to be done with this debate. I was watching the debate in the Bahamas, sipping on a mojito, and it was great. And I never want to think about that debate again because it was so bad. And we know now that an ABC producer signed a sworn affidavit saying, hey, we gave the questions ahead of time to Kamala Harris. We also told her that we weren't going to fact check her and that we were going to fact check Donald Trump. So he went into that debate with, no impartiality at all, no fairness. So, I wish I could be done with this debate. And, this is really the reason why we're not having a third debate, this story right here. So on Thursday, the day of the debate, Donald Trump said there would be, or on Thursday, I don't know when the debate was, the Thursday after the debate. I'd have to look that up. But on Thursday, Donald Trump said there wasn't going to be a third debate. On Thursday morning, a puff piece was written praising the debate moderator. So this is Lindsay Davis. We know that she was a sorority sister of Kamala Harris. And she accidentally, I guess, said the quiet part out loud, folks. Yes, she said the quiet part out loud about why she and the other debate moderator, the ABC moderator, David Murr, ganged up on Donald Trump. Trump said there would be no third debate, which is a smart move. Okay, I think that it's very smart of him to not debate anymore, because if he's just going into debates and they're going to straight up just go after him for no reason really and be unfair, why would you do that? You're just going to hurt yourself. It's a 3-against-1 fight, the moderators and Kamala Harris against you, and if they're just going to give her the questions, it's not a true debate. So Scott Jennings said the next moderators would be even worse. Let's take a listen to this clip. Here we go.
He did get pushback from them. They did try to fact check him in real time, but there were numerous questions that she would not answer. And she did tell several lies and got no fact checking. So I think if you're going to lay down a marker that we're going to push back on these candidates, you got to do it to none or you got to do it to both. They asked her directly in the very first question if she thought they had any responsibility for the economic conditions or that people were better off than they were for. And she completely ignored it. Mm-hmm. They asked her on immigration. Why did you wait until 6 months before the election to do anything? And she completely ignored it. And so fact checking and Barb's aside, those are the two most important issues in the election. They asked her, she completely ignored them, and they spent all their time going after Trump and didn't follow up on any of that. I thought it was ridiculous. Yes,
it was ridiculous. So Scott Jennings is right there. They're one reason. Or I want to say this is a glowing profile on Lindsay Davis. They did it in the LA Times, okay? And this is where she admits with her mouth that they weren't going to be favorable to Donald Trump because of the previous debate with him and Joe Biden. So here we go, LA Times. Lindsay Davis held Trump's feet to the fire. This is how she became ABC's news rising star. Okay, so Davis wore pink glasses to the interview. This is how they describe her in the LA Times, which is ridiculous. She interviewed at the Ritz-Carlton, a fancy hotel. Seriously, this is such a puff piece. It was a crucial detail for the interviewer to include that she was wearing pink glasses. That I guess the interviewer felt they needed to mention that. This is such a puff piece. So later in the interview, Davis admits what the game was. So here it is. According to the LA Times, she said the decision to attempt to correct the candidates was in response to the June 27th CNN debate between President Donald Trump and President Biden, whose poor performance led to his exit from the race. This is what Davis says, the sorority sister of Kamala Harris, the debate moderator, okay, the ABC moderator. She says, people were concerned that statements were allowed to just hang and not be disputed by the candidate Biden at the time or the moderators. Okay, so the moderators did not dispute any kind of claims that Trump made during the debate. And she said people were concerned about that, those statements just hanging and not being fact-checked. So let's set aside the things they fact-checked Donald Trump over were true. Okay, they constantly fact-checked. I think one was like, oh, he said that we gave, 25 or what was it, $200,000 to Ukraine, or $200 billion to Ukraine, something like that, crazy number. And it was like slightly less than that. That's the type of stuff that they fact Donald Trump on. A lot of the stuff that Donald Trump said was true. And so let's just set all that aside. The fact check all went in one direction. Okay. While Kamala Harris, she just told untruth after untruth after untruth. And she never answered a direct question. She never answered that. So the fact checking was all in one direction. Davis said that they didn't want to repeat Trump versus Biden debate where Trump's statements were not disputed by his opponent. Okay, that's literally the opponent's job. Okay, it's not the moderator's job. This is a debate. The opponent's job is to dispute. So there's no reason for the moderators to fact check Donald Trump. Okay, the whole reason why you have a debate is for the opponent to do that, to dispute the statements of the opponent. That's what a debate is. The debate is supposed to be between two presidential candidates, and the two candidates are supposed to be debating each other on why they should be president, the next president. So I don't understand. Joe Biden did such a piss poor job of doing this that he isn't the candidate anymore. That's not my fault, your fault, or the Trump's fault. He just did a piss poor job. Okay. And they didn't want to risk that with Kamala Harris. They didn't want her to risk doing such a poor job, because then what candidate do they pick, or what candidate do they install next after Kamala Harris? Okay. They've got nobody else. So they did Kamala's job for her while letting Kamala get away with everything. And she was never fact checked. She pushed the Project 2025 hoax. She pushed the Charlottesville hoax, I think, or there was all kinds of things that had been debunked by people like Snopes, okay, far leftists who have said, hey, Project 2025, Donald Trump has no real connection to that. She pushed that lie out there. So no pushback on Kamala over the economy, no pushback on Kamala over the immigration, but there was only pushback on Trump and fact-checking Trump if, he said something to the fact of, pets are being eaten, and he knows this because residents are saying so on television. And they were like, oh, no, the city manager said it's not happening. Okay, but if there's 7 residents who say it's happening, I would much rather side with the 7 residents. And Donald Trump is correct in that, truly, if you're going off the, definition of fact, you go with the most people. If more people say it, then most likely that's what happened. Okay. If one person says it's not happening and then 7 people say it is happening, go with the 7, right? So there's no longer a reason to have presidential debates, because you're going to have Lindsay Davis and her pink glasses, as the LA Times pointed out, at this ritzy hotel. She just exposed why there shouldn't be any more presidential debates, because she quite literally said we couldn't have a repeat of the Biden versus Trump debate on CNN, where Biden got his ass handed to him. We couldn't have a repeat of that. So she said it out loud with her mouth that she didn't want a repeat of the Biden versus Trump debate. And that's why they fact-checked Donald Trump, because, quote, people were concerned about statements that were just allowed to be hanged and not hang out there and not be disputed by President Joe Biden at the time or the moderators. All right, I do have to leave. Bye-bye. Love you. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll do it all again tomorrow.